All right, so I think we're live. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to wait a second and make sure we're showing up on the YouTube feed. Okay, awesome. So welcome, everyone, to our Mobile CSP webinar for the month of May. This is our wrapping up the end of the academic year webinar. So it's our time to have a little bit of a celebration. I know that many of you may not be done with the academic year yet, but we're getting really, really close to the end. For AP, you've taken the exam. Your students have taken the exam. So you're wrapping things up, and we just want to make sure that we touch base with you and help answer questions that you have. So first, as we're getting set up here, you are hearing Pauline Lake of Mobile CSP, and Cassandra is here as well. I'm going to say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. And we are live on YouTube. So if it's been a while since you joined us, you can actually go ahead over to the right-hand side of YouTube where you see the chat. And we're monitoring the chat, but it can take a little bit of time before we see your comments and questions. But please do post there if you have any reflections or comments, and especially questions that you want to ask. Just know that we are monitoring it. Maybe just wait 30 seconds to a minute at least, and we'll address them once we see them pop up. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here. All right. As soon as I can see this is up. Ready to go. All right. Am I passing it over to you, Cassie, as we get started?
Yeah, hi everyone. As Pauline said, I am Cassandra, so your data specialist. That's who you're hearing right now. So Pauline, in Hartford, we heard that there's some inclement weather coming in, so hopefully it won't get cut off, but if we do, we'll be up back shortly. So thanks for hanging in there with us. We wanted to give each of you a huge thank you for everything you have done this year. We know that you've been working hard, especially at the end. A lot of you had some weather issues, like with snow days and other things that happened this academic year. So we just want to say thank you for sticking it out and making it to the end. We're happy to have each of you on our team. So from all of us at Mobile CSP, thank you for all of your work. To kick off tonight, we're going to ask you each to participate in an answer garden. So if you haven't done that before, it's a really cool tool that you can use in your classroom. And how this works is I posted a link in the chat, and it's also available in the slides if you're following along with us. But if you click on that link and go to it in a separate page, you're going to see a bar up at the top where you can type your answers. And our question for tonight is, what's your plan for the academic year? And what lessons or activities have you or will you utilize in your course? So how Answer Garden works the best is if you type in keywords. So if you're working on something like Python, or maybe you're having some guest speakers come in, just type guest speaker. And it's really cool because as more people type, there'll be more responses. And if more than one person types a word, it will grow bigger. So it's a really cool way to see what other people are doing. So we're just going to give you about a minute or so to go into Answer Garden and type your responses about what you're doing for the academic year or how you plan on wrapping up your academic year. And to see everyone's responses as they're coming in, you're going to probably have to refresh the page. So again, I posted the link there in the chat. So go ahead now and head over to Answer Garden and tell us what you're up to.
And I'll click on that momentarily. I just want to make sure we wait a moment here in case there are any questions that come in about what to do or how to access it.
Yeah, I just want to give everyone's a heads up too that when we're broadcasting live, there's about a 15-second delay, as Pauline said. So, oh, I see some things coming in. Oh, so we have a student choice, Unity. Great, that's awesome. C++, tutorials, building fun apps. I see Pauline's head in there too, so we can show everyone who's maybe not actively doing it. Great, building fun apps, missed lessons. Movies, that's awesome. If you have any movie suggestions or that you want to show, go ahead and put that in the chat on our YouTube page. Also, if you hover over the words, you can see who's typed it. So that's kind of a cool ice cream party. Oh, jealous. We should have an ice cream party with our team. More programming, great. Showcasing. That is an awesome idea. It's a great way to get students interested in each other's projects. Awesome. If you're just joining us right now, we are in Answer Garden, and we're typing keywords for things that we're doing to round out the academic year. Fun apps, yay! Oh, look at that. War games, huh? That's interesting. The imitation game, lots of awesome things. Celebrating, yes, yes. Great cause, celebrating. That's how we feel too. Someone put in the chat that they're designing a companion app for a teacher who has designed a board game. That's cool. Oh, he meant, okay, John, you meant the movie War Games. I was like, what is that? There's articles. You can see in the chat that some people have posted some extra stuff too. So that is great. You guys can come back to this at any time, and this is a great way to get some ideas if you need something to wrap out your academic year. We're also going to share these on the forum. So keep posting that as we go throughout the night, and just keep that in mind. I think we're going to switch back and get going on the presentation. Pauline, if you don't mind. Okay, great. So updates for this year. We wanted to give you some insight into what we're doing on our end. So right now, if you haven't already issued the final exam, hopefully you'll be doing that in the next week or so. And just a reminder that Mobile CSP grades the final exam and posts their final exam Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I pull those Tuesdays and Thursday evening. I try to have those to you by the next morning, so they'll be available Wednesday or Friday. With how many people we have doing the final right now, it typically takes a couple hours to get it out to you, but you'll get an email when your final's graded and when it's ready for you to view. So that's a good thing to look for if you're not quite sure if we've graded it yet. So just a reminder, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we update those. If you need your grades before a certain date because your class is ending or grades are due, please let us know a couple days ahead of time. So this is a really busy time of year for us. We're tracking down everyone's requirements. We also have our master teacher orientation this weekend, and Pauline is working on the expo at Trinity. So we have lots of busy things going on. So if you need them before the Tuesday or Thursday, you need to let us know a couple days ahead of time so we can do that for you and get your grades to you in time. Also, a reminder that the post surveys, we update those at least every Wednesday and Friday, but I try to do it every day now that we're getting here at the end. But I will guarantee Wednesday and Friday for you. If I can get them sooner, I will. And that's another thing too. If your students are going to be done with the course and you need to know who's taking it, just let us know. We just ask that for your continued patience. You guys have all been great, but we just ask that you're patient with us as we get those out to you. Okay, next slide, Pauline, when you're ready. So this is just a reminder about your research requirements. So if you've participated in the monthly meetings with your master teacher's been tracking attendance, and we check that off at the end of the year. So we check in with your master teacher to make sure that you've met meetings. If you weren't able to attend every month, you should have made arrangements with your master teacher or attended the makeup meetings that we offer, and your master teachers track that too. So if you get an email from us that says you haven't met your meeting requirements and you know you have, you're going to need to follow up with your master teacher about that. So that's the meeting requirements. Also, if you were in the online or if you went to PD Week last summer in Duluth, you should have participated in the video task. This is not something that hybrid had to do. So if you are wondering what the video task is and you were hybrid last year, that's not something, not a requirement for you. And most of you should have received a video task reminder a couple months ago if you hadn't yet submitted it. So just a reminder that if you haven't done that yet, it needs to get up. We can only allow so much extensions for that in the project. And that's not coming from our team, that's coming from our NSF grant. So that just needs to get in. If you haven't done it already, go in and comment and make sure that's submitted and all ready to go. Collect and submit consent forms. Most of you have done this. If you haven't, you got another pestering email from me reminding you to do it. I know that a lot of you have been really busy and haven't had a chance to upload those yet. So we just ask that you do that. We can't use your data without the consent form. And if a student says no, that's fine. We will omit that. And if you have one or two, or depending on your class size, maybe even more than that, students who haven't submitted it, don't freak out. We're not going to dock you for missing one or two consent forms or even a few if your class is large. We understand that that's difficult to get students to submit. So if you have the majority of your consent forms in, we're going to mark you off as having met that requirement, but we will ask that you at least make a good faith effort to get all of them into us. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. If you haven't gotten an email yet about it, you're probably fine, but just keep that in mind. The student pre-survey was done at the beginning of your class, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. That should be all set to go in your spreadsheet. The midterm and exam one, same thing. If you should all be set to go with that. Now the performance tasks for your grades, we need the create one, create two, explore one, explore two. And Pauline can answer some questions if you have questions about grading those. But all of that information should be available in your spreadsheet. If you've had to skip an assignment due to weather, you should contact Mobile CSP about that, and we will review that on a case-by-case basis. So we are willing to work with you if you have a reason that prevented you from issuing something. But again, that's going to need to get approval by Mobile CSP before we can waive any of those requirements. But we understand this has been a difficult year with snow days and in some areas even with hurricanes and flooding, and it's just been a bad weather year. So we understand that, and we will work with you. You just need to let us know ahead of time. We can't really extend a deadline for you if we're hearing from you the day before things are due. So if you had an issue that prevented you from getting performance tasks in, let us know. Also, your final exam needs to be done. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and issue that as soon as possible. On the issuing assessments page of the teacher resource website, which I have linked in the resources there below, you can see more information about how to access your final exam. Thanks for opening that, Pauline. If you scroll down, it gives an overview of your required assessments, and it also gives you an overview of how to issue your assessments if you haven't done it yet. And there's lots of resources down there about using tokens and passwords and things to keep in mind. And lastly, with the final exam, all of your students should be taking it. Again, if you can't get everyone to do it, we understand, but all of your students, including seniors, should be doing that. And if you have some questions about how to handle senior testing, we have a great resource document on the issuing assessments page that explains that. And again, those are pulled Tuesday and Thursdays. The last piece is your student post, or not your last piece, the last piece for your students is the post survey. As I said with the other requirements, if you have one or two students or a handful of students, if you have a large class who weren't able to get that done, we're not going to dock you for that, but just make a good faith effort to get everyone to take the post survey. Okay, now the final piece for you is the teacher end of course survey. And I haven't sent that out yet. And the reason for that is we wanted to have this meeting with you and get to talk to all of you and remind you of it. So that will be coming out in the next week or so. And you'll get that via email. And it will include a link to the teacher end of course survey and a token or a password that you'll need to enter, similar to what your students entered for their assessments. And once that is done and you have met your requirements and you've met all the other ones, if you're eligible for a stipend, you will be on your way to get that. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment. So resources, Pauline, could you open the example spreadsheet for me, please? Thank you. So this example spreadsheet shows you what everything that you need by the end of the year. So the Google Sites URL, that's just something we use as an accountability measure. We don't go into your students' responses, but the consent forms, the pre-survey, the performance tasks, your final exam, your post-survey for your students. The final course grade is something that we used to use, but we omitted that this year. So if you share that with us, great. But if not, we're not going to dock you from missing it. And then your student study IDs are stuff that I update. One thing that you're doing as you're going through here, I want to give a reminder to everyone, do not delete your students if they dropped. Make sure that you update the column O that says the question mark dropped, and you can just say yes or no. Oh, Pauline, I see that just by random there, you dropped in the final, example spreadsheet.
Of all people, come on, Cassie.
I know. It was a little bit of irony there, I guess. I don't know. That was set up randomly. It doesn't look like we all did very good in the course either, but those were just random. It was random. So make sure you don't delete your rows. Just mark whether or not the student dropped and don't delete them, please. Otherwise, we're going to go nuts trying to track down. We're going to have results for people and we can't figure out where they are, where they went. So don't delete anyone, please. Okay, I think we can.
We did get a question, Cassie. I think since this is showing, it's a good time. I addressed it in the chat, but it said the final grade are not multiplied in my spreadsheet by 100 to get 8%. Is that okay? And my response was yes, right? As long as there's a grade in there, right? Like there's shown here, this is not a percent either, right? As long as the grade is there and you've administered it, we'll go through and we'll make sure that everything is in the same format. So I'm pointing to final course grades. The question was about final exam. We will go through and we'll make sure that everything is in the correct format. It's as long as you have issued the exams and put the grades in there for the performance tasks. That's what's really essential for us.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, so as Pauline said, we will format everything. Also, I saw a question, is the final course grade calculated by you? So as I mentioned before, the final course grade was something that we used in the past, but we're not using that for research this year. So however you want to enter that is fine. And it in the past, we've asked it's been every grade you've assigned, not just mobile CSP assignments. I've seen some people put letters in, that's fine. So however you enter that or whatever you enter in there is fine. If you don't enter anything, you're not going to get penalized either.
All right. And there was also another question here about the performance task conversions. And that was actually the next thing here for resources, which is the performance task grades.
Yeah, this spreadsheet or that you're going to see, or sorry, this slide that you're going to see that Pauline's opening right now, the performance task grade rubrics, this is also available on the managing spreadsheet part of your teacher resource website. So you can access that there. It's been available since the beginning of the year. And Pauline, I'm going to let you take over about the performance tasks.
Oh, okay, sure. So as you know that each row of the rubric is weighted differently. Even though you only assign scores of zeros and ones, each one has a different final weight. So the one I have showing here, and I can do a full presentation so it's a little easier to see. This is the create performance task with rows 1 through 8. Looking at row 1, for example, you can either give a 0 or a 1. It's binary, as you know. They either earned the point or they did not. And the weight of row 1 is 20. So the final weighting or scoring would be 20%. So what we're looking for is for you to enter the final weight um, and add a sum, add them up and have the sum of those weights in the end. And that's what you put into your cell. So this slide and the following slide here, this one's for Explore, these give you the weights, and our last slide shows you how to enter those, right? So for Explore, this is an example here. Says they got a 20, 10, 15, 15, 15, 15, 10. That's if they received a 1 for each of the 8 criteria, right? So if they had gotten a perfect score, all ones, that's what you would enter into the cell, and it adds up to 100%. Right? So there's no exact formula that we have for you. I know some of the teachers have come up with their own spreadsheets, their own formulas. We're just giving you the weights here and asking you to enter the sum.
I think this is a good part for me to jump into. So around this time of year, we get questions about how to do this. And I just want to remind you that we're always happy to address them via email. But also, if you take a peek at the teacher resource website, we have that stuff laid out and all the resources and examples for you.
Yes.
I have a question that says I did this for Create 2 and Explore 2, but I didn't do that for Create 1 and Explore 1. Is that going to be an issue? No, it won't be an issue. We do ask you to do it, but if you don't have that information available, you don't have to spend the time going back and trying to track it down. Also, we don't need you to share the score, like the individual student scoring with us or the rubrics or anything like that. You don't need to upload those or share those. As Pauline said, we want you to enter the weights, which will give you the percentage. Okay, I think we're ready to move on here. Maybe just wait a second or two more. Well, not a second. We'll wait just a little bit here, see if anyone has comments before we move on.
I do see other questions. I know we're about to get to some of those.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is the deadline to grade the College Board submissions? Yeah, that's a great transition until the next slide. So the deadlines for data submission, all data and requirements must be submitted by June 1st. I'm going to say that one more time, June 1st. The reason why we say June 1st is it takes us a little bit of time to go through everyone's grade book, which is what we have to do. We have to go through them one by one and check off that you've met everything. So we ask you to do that by June 1st so we have time to get that all together for the data that we need. If you are issuing the final later, or if you have snow days that have pushed you back and you can't get everything to us by June 1st, you do need to send us an email so we're aware of that. So I saw that there was a question earlier. Someone said that they're not able to issue their final until after June 1st, and that's fine. We're willing to work with you on that. You just need to email us. So also, I want to note here that if you have an personal extenuating circumstance that's going to prevent you from getting everything in, let's say you've already issued your final, you've already issued your pre-survey, but you haven't had time to grade or something like that, you're going to need to email us about that too. And Mobile CSP will reserve the right to review each extenuating circumstance and choose whether or not we're going to grant that. Now, I know that sounds kind of tough, and Pauline and I do everything in our power to grant to give you guys some flexibility there, but the reason for that is not us, it's the terms of our grant. So we need to have everything in by a certain date. That's why we need to review extensions. And if you've had snow days or weather that have pushed you back, I wouldn't worry about getting an extension, but you do need to let us know. And also, it'll save you from getting pestering emails from me asking you where your stuff is. So make sure you email us and let us know if you're not going to get it in by June 1st. I saw Pauline put lots of examples of that June 1st. Okay, so Pauline, yep, I see Pauline answered a question, but I want to address it here too. Someone said, how long is the final expected to take? And Pauline said 40 to 50 minutes, and that is accurate. That's the average that I've been getting for students to complete the exam. So make sure you give them that at least that much time. Some students will do it a lot quicker. With the midterm, we were really surprised that students flew through that, and that might be the case with your class, but we do recommend at least 50 minutes. Okay, so before we move into the next slide or segue here, all data requirements must be submitted by June 1st unless you have an extension to be eligible to receive your stipend. So if you are participating in research and you're waiting for your stipend, which we want you to get, that's our ultimate goal. We want you to get your stipend if you're eligible for it. But you need to have that stuff in. And we're going to talk about the stipend process now. Okay, so the payment process here. So as some of you may already know, Pauline and I work at different institutions on kind of not opposite ends of the country, but far away from one another. So I work at the College of St. Scholastica in Duluth, Minnesota, and Pauline works at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And because these grants are Mobile CSP is split up between two grants and we work collaboratively. Some of you are going to get payments from Scholastica and some of you are going to get payments from Trinity. It's not important for you to know which way your payment's coming. It's just something to be aware of, that the process is a little different. So if you are getting paid through Scholastica, and we will let you know, you don't need to guess here, when we have verified that you've met all the requirements, we will follow up with you. So you don't need to worry about sending us a follow-up asking which institution you're getting paid through. We will handle that. We will let you know. But just so you're aware, with Scholastica, if you get an email from us at the end of the year, you will need to complete paperwork first of all. That's the college's process. We do not have control over that. I don't have control over it. You need to, so I will send you a sheet. You need to sign it and send it back to me. And then I turn it in to the PIs on the grant and they sign it. And then that gets submitted to the finance department. They process it and they mail out the check for you. So once you give me your paperwork back and I turn it over to them, I have no control over the process of how quickly it goes. I do not have control over the process of when things will be issued. We just want to let you know that. We will, if you have questions, we're more than happy to help you track it down, but just be aware of the fact that we may not know where it is in finance department. It's submitted, but we may not be able to give you an exact date of arrival, but we're happy to help you troubleshoot that if we need to. With Trinity, Trinity doesn't require you to sign any paperwork, so Pauline's able to submit that request on your behalf, and that goes to their finance department for processing, and then the check is mailed. So even though Scholastica's process is a little bit longer, as long as you get us your paperwork back right away or a day or so afterwards, we are able to turn that over really quick. And regardless of whether you're getting paid for Scholastica or Trinity, as long as you're getting the paperwork back to us in a timely manner, you should see your check in about 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes they arrive sooner, sometimes they arrive later. When we have these bulk checks going out, it's hard for us to tell. So please allow at least 2 to 3 weeks for your check to process and be sent out to you. And checks are sent to the address that you submitted on your W-9 at the beginning of the year. So if you've moved or you had a change, you need to let Pauline and I know before we submit your paperwork that you haven't had an address change. So how this will work is if you're getting paid by us at Scholastica, I'll send you an email asking you to complete the paperwork. You return that to me, and then we handle the rest. With Pauline will send you an email saying it's been submitted and that they'll be handling it. So just one little quick difference there. Okay, I think I covered everything. I'll wait a little bit for questions to see if anything comes through.
I'd like to jump in real quick. I would say, if you have submitted your data and you submit it on June 1st or the night before, right? We still have to go through the process of checking and verifying that everything is completed before we can start the payment process. So it's not that as soon as you submit, we're going to start the payment process. It's you submit, we check over it to make sure you've met the requirements, and then we'll be in touch with you if there's paperwork that needs to be filled out for Cassie's side, or I'll let you know that you've met the requirements and your stipend will be issued. With that being said, though, if you're someone who can get everything completed, you've been doing a great job all year long with keeping up, and you don't really have that much left to do, if you could submit before the June 1st deadline, we would really appreciate that, right? Because that staggers the data submissions that we have to kind of vet and check over to see if they've met the requirements. It staggers that out instead of all of them coming in at once, which helps the payment process also go a little bit smoother. So just if you have the ability to submit before June 1st, we encourage it. But again, you do have up until June 1st, unless you have the extension to go beyond that date.
Thanks, Pauline. I also want to hop in here too. I got a question via email, so thanks for sending that to me. Someone asked about the link and the tokens for the final. So I want to give a reminder that those are in your student information spreadsheet. They should be ready to go and ready to use. Please check there to make sure that they're not. And if they're not, we will get them in for you, but make sure you check that. Okay, I think that's all I had to add there. Thanks, Pauline, for reiterating the getting things to us sooner. And if you do get it before the June 1st deadline, and there's a possibility you're going to get an email sooner that asks you to start the payment process. Okay. I am going to turn it over to the lovely Pauline now, and I'll be monitoring the chat as she's talking.
All right, so I'm just going to go through some of the frequently asked questions that we get. There are lots, but these are probably the top ones that we get. Looking ahead to the 2018-2019 academic year, after you finished up your requirements, we often are asked, can you still reach out to your master teacher and cohort? And the answer is yes, or absolutely yes. We want you to still continue to collaborate with them and communicate with them. What I've seen over the years is really friendships and networks have grown out of these cohorts. And even to this day, 5 years later, there are still people who were in the original cohort that are still working together, communicating and collaborating and sharing ideas. So even though you're not required for the 2018-2019 academic year to attend meetings, we do encourage you to keep in touch with your cohort, with your master teacher. And if you had, the forum, if you're using the forum, you can absolutely still continue to post to the forum as well. Another question that we get is, can you continue to use Mobile CSP's curriculum and resources? Absolutely, right? Our materials are out there, available for free still on our Google Course Builder site. You're welcome to log in, use those. Of course, students can sign in for free with a Google account currently. The resources that we have on the teacher side will still be available. All we ask is that you just make sure you're keeping up to date. So during the summertime is when we'll have the changes and updates that happen to the curriculum. Usually they're not major changes, but they're changes that you want to be aware of in most cases. So just make sure that you're keeping up with the forum, or you're keeping up with the curriculum change log that we have on the teacher side of the course to make sure you know what's there and what's not there. I would say, one thing we're gearing up, many of you have heard about it, is that MIT App Inventor will soon be releasing the iOS version. So we're going to be updating the curriculum this summer to include some different versions of the tutorials to be able to work with iOS as well. So those types of updates, you want to continue to look out for those and make sure you have the latest information about the curriculum. Another question we get is, will Mobile CSP continue to grade the online exams for me? And this one is sort of a trick question. If you're not participating in the data collection, we cannot issue tokens for you, right? So you are not required to participate in the data collection, and we're not automatically going to be issuing tokens like we did this year to you and your students. However, you are welcome and encouraged to volunteer to submit student data, right? And that goes hand in hand with the data collection question that we get a lot is, can you continue to participate? Yes, we would love for you to continue to participate in the data collection process. And in turn, what we're going to do for you is if you issue our exam and participate in the data collection, we will then grade the exams for you. So it's sort of like a nice little trade-off that we get. You help us, we help you type deal. And I think over the years, I've seen quite a few teachers continue to stay on board, especially for the exams, because we know how it's been helpful to you to not have to create your own exams this year, and many teachers like to continue that and not have to create their own materials. And all it takes is to send us an email to let us know. So you see a little note here that we're going to ask that you request in advance that you want to be involved in the exams or participate in the data collection. What we don't want is, 2 weeks before your midterm exam, you to email us next year and say, can we use your exam, right? We would love for you to be able to send your request to us ahead of time, ideally for fall semester and full year courses by October 1st. Just give us a little note saying, hey, we're interested in participating in the data collection and issuing online exams. And we'll get back to you and follow up and do a similar process with the student information spreadsheet that you have, right? Providing the tokens in there for your students. And then for spring courses, we're just asking by February 1st that you request to use our exams and be a part of the data collection. So that just gives us a heads up there, so that way we can plan accordingly and we're not rushing at the last minute to help provide you with access to the exam. I know that sometimes it's easy to forget. That's why we hope that telling you now will be helpful, and you can set reminders. Many of you I know have to plan when you give exams ahead of time at your schools. So just keep us in the back of your mind. If you need an exam for next year and you'd like to use our exam, just let us know ahead of time.
Thanks, Pauline. I also want to mention that with this, if you do volunteer to participate in data, you will have to do consent forms again. So that's a little bit timely, can be timely to get everyone to submit their consent form. So having these early deadlines gives you enough time as well to collect that and get your students updated.
I was anticipating this question, but I don't think it came up. If I ask you, Cassie, as a teacher, is it possible for me only to participate in the online exam and not the rest of the data collection?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Thanks, Pauline. So I would like you to do all the data. I would like you to do the pre-survey and performance tasks, but we're not going to require you to do that. So if you email us and you want to issue the final and you want us to grade it, we will do that for you. In the very minimum, you need to do your consent forms, because if we don't get consent forms in, then we can't use any of it. And we're spending a lot of time grading and getting stuff set up for you, and we can't use the data. So the simple answer is, if you just want to submit the consent or the exams, the midterm and the final, we can do that for you, but we would really, really like it if you would take the time to give us the performance tasks, especially since this is a new course. The AP CSP course is new, and it gives us information and feedback about the processes that we're doing. So the performance task information is really helpful. And the surveys are really helpful too. We directly use the student feedback and your feedback to make changes in the curriculum. So it's really important that we can hear from students, because being removed as we are, I know Pauline teaches the course at a college level, but I don't teach the course. We are not involved in high school. We're not in your classroom. We don't get to hear the things your students say on a day-to-day basis. So those surveys are really a good opportunity for us to hear directly from the students. So we appreciate it if you do those as well.
So that actually just reminded me, if you were teaching the AP course this year, well, the course is AP, and your students took the AP exam on May 11th, or if there was an extension and you're waiting to take it, that we would love to hear what comes from the debriefing conversation that you have with your students, if you've had it yet. And by that I mean, many of the teachers that I've worked with over the years, after the AP exam, they'll sit down, they'll talk to the students, and they'll say, okay, guys, how did it go? What did you think? Did you feel prepared? And maybe asking, what do you think was on the exam that you didn't feel prepared for? Those types of informal conversations, as informal as they may be, reporting back to us with just, topics that the students felt they could have been better prepared for, or that they struggled with on the exam. That reporting that back to us, right, helps us improve the curriculum for next year, right? We make note of that. If we get a high volume of teachers telling us that, my students felt, X, Y, and Z wasn't covered, we'll take note of that and we'll try to improve that for the upcoming academic year. So if you're having those conversations, right, feel free to report back to us or into the forum, right? You may see that other teachers are hearing the same things from their students.
That's a great point, Pauline. Thanks for bringing that up. I did get an email that I want to make sure I call out here before we move on to the next slide. So if you know you're teaching Mobile CSP next year and you definitely know that you want to have us grade our exams, you don't have to wait till October 1st or the beginning of the school year. You could let me know now, and that would be great. And I can get you set up in a spreadsheet, and that way we have you on the list. So if you know you want to do that, you can send an email to the research@mobilecsp.org account. I'm going to put that in the chat again, and we can get you set up for next year.
Now, I know John is probably going to be a troublemaker here. If you're teaching the course next year, John, you got to ask by October 1st, not October 2nd, because that's my birthday, and I'm not going to take requests on October 2nd. So by October 1st. All right, we're ready for the last slide?
I think so. I don't see any more questions.
Oh no, did I scare people? No. So to kind of help us celebrate with you and your achievements, we are asking you to help us with the NSF video showcase. So we have a Mobile CSP video that is posted to the STEM for All video hall, and it is over 200 videos in a collection made by different researchers and projects that were funded by the NSF, the National Science Foundation, which Mobile CSP is or was. And our video is up there. We'd love for you to go check it out. To vote for our presentation is a People's Choice Award vote. And to leave comments and encourage also other people to visit. Encourage your students to visit the site. You have until the end of the week. I know it says it goes to the 21st, but definitely by the end of the week. Make sure you check that out for us and help us promote Mobile CSP. Many of you know that we're currently also doing recruitment for the PD this summer. So if help us spread the word. If you've had a great time this year and your students have enjoyed the course, please do help us spread the word. And this is one way to help do that, is sharing the video on social media or with your students, and vote for us.
I also think too that, well, I don't think, I know for sure that the NSF showcase is accessible to anyone. So this is also a great way for your students to go home and take this home to their parents and their guardians and their friends and their extended family and show them what they've been doing in Mobile CSP. So this gives an overview of the project and what we've done. So encourage your students to take this home too and show people what they're working on.
All right, so can we put the link in the chat? Cassie, can you do that for me? Thank you, Cassie.
There's a ton of other projects on there too. So we vote for Mobile CSP, but then go explore what other people and other projects are doing too.
Yeah, there's lots of great stuff on there. All right. So we're going to wrap up. We're a little bit early here. Woohoo! Are there any other concerns or questions that you have for us before we wrap up?
Or if you just want to tell us how much you love us and love Mobile CSP, we'll take that too.
Yes.
If you don't have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave. Otherwise, we're going to stick around and take your questions. Thanks. If you're leaving now, thank you for joining us. And we'll probably stick on for a couple minutes. What do you think, Pauline?
Yeah, I'll be here. Just so I can watch John's comments. Oh no. So Beverly, I see your comment if you're still there. Those questions that are in the purple book, those questions are actually throughout the Mobile CSP course in interactive format. And they're also in Unit 8 in the AP CSP prep. So I'm actually surprised to hear that. Are you having the students actually visit the Mobile CSP site and use the self-check questions as they do each lesson? So are you using those self-check questions at the bottom of each lesson as you go through the course? Like, do you have students actually going to the lesson? Say you did, 5.3. Are they going right into the lesson and doing the self-check? Okay. Right. So some of those questions in all of the questions in the purple book are scattered throughout the course. in the lesson where they would be deemed appropriate, they're put as an AP CSP sample exam question, and then all of them are together in one part of Unit 8, which is the prep, as you know. Uh, so they should, maybe it's something, moving forward to make sure that they are paying closer attention to those AP CSP questions when they do the particular lessons that they appear in. That's true. Yeah, 2 hours is a long time. And I heard overall, and maybe the teachers who are still here, that the students were finishing the AP CSP exam, which is 2 hours. They were finishing that early. And that was what I heard from last year's test. I don't know what happened this year as far as timing. And that could be the positive or negative how you look at it. It could be that they just did so well that they flew through the questions, or it could be that they really didn't take time to think through each of those questions. So yeah, the length of the exam is definitely a factor. All right, Cassie, did you see any more questions coming in? I didn't see. Did we miss any?
Helps if I unmute myself. I had a question come in via email that I know we only have a couple people left, but I do want to address it in case people are watching the recording. So someone asked about consent forms and whether if they are going to participate next year, if they can use the same consent forms that we use this year. The answer to that is you probably shouldn't print those off and get them sent out, even if you know your students who are signed up next year. The reason for that is we're going to need to make some updates to the consent form, and we do that every year before the school year begins. So just hold off on doing that until you hear from us.
All right, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. Have a great night, everyone.